Okay, well, good afternoon. I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order for January the 10th. To start with, I'm going to do our monthly land acknowledgement. So the council acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina Tina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. Our recognition of this land is an important step in our continued commitment to reconciliation in our Indigenous peoples. So we'll move into the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Councillor Hystad?
Your worship, what I'd like to do is add an agenda item probably at the end, and I would call it water meters. I think there's an opportunity for us to learn as a council on the bylaws itself that pertain to water meters and stuff. And I can explain myself once I get there. How's that?
CEO Becker.
Just for clarification, Councillor, I said, would that be a 4.5 on the agenda, or where do you see that landing on the agenda?
I'm trying to find 4.5. I see 4.4.
No, would you be 4.5?
Oh, yes, sure.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you. Councillor CEO Becker.
Yes, please, Mayor Bartley, just a slight adjustment to the agenda 4.2. We have an more updated copy of the business continuity pandemic emergency plan. So replacing the May 29th, 2020 document with the most current document being October 27th, 2021. We'll bring that up on the screen for more of a detailed review.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make a motion to move the agenda as amended?
I'll move the agenda as amended, Mayor Barkley.
Thank you, Councillor Maceras. All in favor? Thank you. We'll go into 3.1, our regular council meeting of December 13th. Just a review of the minutes. Everyone's okay with that? I'll have someone make a motion that we accept those minutes, please.
Mayor Barkley, I would make that motion to adopt December 13th minutes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wing. All in favor? Okay, 3.2, the Agenda and Priorities Committee meeting of December the 20th. Have someone please adopt those minutes.
I'll move those minutes, Mayor Barkley.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. All in favor? And then 3.3, the Agenda and Priorities Committee meeting of January the 4th. Need someone to adopt those minutes, please.
Mayor Barkley also move.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Thank you.
Mayor Barkley, may I interrupt?
Yes.
There have been some motions from the gallery that they cannot hear us very well.
Oh, okay. Is that better? Okay, we can have it. Actually, we can just take a minute if we could have the volume turned up. May we? Somebody? Yeah, maybe we'll proceed. Well, I think we are louder already. Is that better at the back? A little, okay, maybe we can proceed and we'll just speak louder than what we have been, if that's okay. So, yeah, that's fine, thank you. So we'll move on to 4.1, the CAO report, please.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just the reporting from the previous to Christmas, I guess, Christmas season. So administration's working on some of your council engagements that you've requested or setting you up with different stakeholders in the community, regional partners, et cetera. So we're currently arranging days and times, as you can see on some of your calendars. Also, administration is working, talking to different local businesses and companies, part of our own administrative engagements. So right now, although the agendas may appear a little smaller at the moment, staff are quite busy developing their 2022 tactical plans. A lot of it, the RFPs, contract services is underway. So taking your directives from the budget and advancing those actions as directed. Working for myself, CAO, working on the community safety plan scope. We're working with the manager of fire and protective services to develop that draft and just present information ultimately to council to determine if this is something that is achieving your vision. Of course, working on the draft of the community economic development strategy, which is has trickled in, but administration is now going to be proceeding with that evaluation onto the committee, onto council, hopefully within the next 3 weeks or so, I'd say. Yeah, just generally a little bit of a break. Obviously, it'll be wrapping up as per normal at this time of year. So if there's any questions on anything on the report or anything else, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions for CEO Becker? No, then I would ask for a motion, please, to approve the CEO report.
I'd so move, Mayor Barkley, that we approve the CAO report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. All in favor? Carried, thank you. In 4.2, we'll have a verbal update on the Emergency Coordination Center.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So the ECC, or the Emergency Coordination Center, continues to meet. We took a break over the festive season. We did meet twice last week, and we'll continue to meet every Wednesday morning as we have been for quite some time. So the ECC, just in general terms, we reviewed our current safety policy regarding safety requirements, just to help staff understand the communication expectations if they become have an illness of any sort, how that communication flow occurs. So that administrative policy is being updated and will be circulated to the staff once it's complete. So just some cleanup work due to the provincial government's restrictions adjustments from the 10-day to 5-day isolation requirements. One thing I wanted to go through with new council was back in March of 2020, as soon as the pandemic was coming through, we built out this business continuity pandemic plan, which has been recently updated October 27, 2021. I'm just gonna, the document you had in the agenda originally is the very same document, except for the last few pages with the service level inventory, and that's what I'll focus in at the end. But just wanted to give you the snippets of what this thing is. Just on the purpose of why we have a pandemic emergency plan, it's really really focuses on the services that we provide to the community and our ability or inability to provide the service. So the purpose of the pandemic emergency plan, and this is for any pandemic, not just the COVID, the previous pandemics, the other, name some, SARS, what this plan would have been in place in some format at that given time as well. So the purpose of this plan is to ensure that town of Innisfail can maintain critical and high priority services levels to the community, really with the staffing levels that we have, educate employees regarding precautionary measures to take during a pandemic, minimize illness amongst employees, define the parameters of services levels during a pandemic, identify protocols for the town of Innisfail to follow when staffing levels are reduced as a result of the pandemic. over the course of the pandemic, we've had some adjustments on our services based on capacity or based on what level the government was at. And so we fluctuate our services based on our ability to do so. And I'll explain further in a second. So just going over to 1.4. So right now, the provincial operational level is 1. So we get reports every day, indicates what level they're at. Right now, the provincial government's at a level 1 level, routine and potential incidents assessed and circulated to partners. So that's we kind of follow what they're doing. So that leads then into the town is a level 1, which is 1.5 on page 4. So town activities directed toward the control of information on the pandemic influenza. So going into what does this mean, level 1 for the town? So the town will implement the pandemic plan, which we have. Department heads will follow the pandemic plan prevention measures guidelines and the business continuity plan. Departments identify alternate suppliers of key services and goods as required. Assessment of each civic department as the service levels to be provided during the pandemic outbreak. Development of strategies to educate and increase awareness for employees, and encouragement of employees to voluntarily participate in the annual flu programs. So we can skip over the levels 2s and 3s, moving into 1.10. So again, we move into service priorities. What council did through administrative advisement, when the pandemic came in, we as a town, as a corporation, identified potential financial risk. So council ultimately made decisions to adjust service levels. If you remember, not this last summer, but summer before, you notice that certain lines on our roadway systems were not painted. There's other services that were adjusted based on trying to mitigate, making sure our financial condition was not compromised due to not knowing what was going to happen. Following year, council identified that no, we're in good shape, actually restore those services. So services were adjusted and we're back at pre-COVID service levels. So service level priorities, high priorities, essential services, medium priority necessary services, and then low priority desired services. And I'll show you that now. So 1.11, or sorry, where am I at here? 1.11. Sorry, the 1.11 business continuity. Again, each department would have a clear delegation of authority based on staff leaving the organization for whatever reason to support family, what have you. And then they have support people under them to assume leadership roles as they are required. So just skimming through then and going down to, I think it's page 18. So just to give you an idea, I won't go through all the services, but we provide a general list of services that we provide. And so level 3 services, that's your high priority services, but they're marked in green. That means they're active. So they're in play. We even, so just skimming through, I'll give you an example. Page 21, snow removal is a good example. Thing is, last winter, we did have some adjustments where priority 1 routes would remain green, priority 2 routes, priority 3 routes may appeared as yellow and red. So priority 3 could have been, we're not doing priority 3 at this given time due to staff availability. But as we can see now that we're fully functioning, we're at full capacity. I think we can do an ECC review. As you can see, if there's a few items that are yellow, that should be ultimately green. I don't think there's any hindrances on our services at this given time. Yeah, so all services at this given time would be indicated in green from my perspective, but we will do a full detailed review on Wednesday again. So again, just for information, council, certainly take any questions on what this means. It's an internal working document for our operations, administration operations, just to give you some understanding of how we would adjust services based on our ability to or inability to provide those services. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions with respect to that? Good, then I would ask someone please for a motion to accept the ECC as information.
Mayor Barkley, I'll move that we accept the, sorry, ECC plan. Accept it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, and we'll move on to 4.3, the council action control with CEO Becker again, please.
Okay, council, if you have any questions on these action items that's made through resolution or a status of any other operational projects or actions, be happy to field your questions.
Okay, and if there's no questions, I would have someone please make a motion to accept this as information.
I'll move that, your Mayor Barkley, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. Any questions? No? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, and we will move on to 4.4, which is a motion that I'm going to be bringing forward. So the motion I'm going to make is based on the following facts. So our municipality does not have the power not to abide by the public health ministerial orders. Currently, our facilities, the Aquatic Center and the arena are operating under the 1/3 capacity where they are allowed to. And adult programming is operating under the restriction exemption program, which is required. Alberta Health Services has recently confirmed we are compliant. And that was through a recent conversation that they initiated with the town. I think we're also keenly aware right now of the most recent variant and what is playing out across the country at this time. We also receive a lot of feedback from many citizens who want the province and us to stay the course. And we also receive correspondence from people who want to see greater restrictions than what are currently in place. And since the start of this, we have always followed the government of Alberta, whether they are adding restrictions or lifting restrictions. And we've always had this mindset that we will follow the experts. So therefore, I move that the town of Innisfail continues to follow the government of Alberta's ministerial orders and all recommendations and policies with respect to COVID-19, as we have been doing and are required to do by the powers that are vested in the provincial government that take precedent over those of a municipality. So I would like to open this up for any discussion if anyone has any comments to add. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And welcome to the gallery. Can you hear me back there? The two gentlemen in the back, can you hear okay? On Zoom? Oh, I have no control over that, so, okay. Okay, so to the gallery and Zoom and to council, I see two pieces to this. Can we just
Councillor
stop?
Harrison, can we just wait a second? Ken, or,
Yeah, I'm monitoring the feed and it's coming fine.
okay,
They may not be able to do this.
no, they're saying they can't hear the meeting. Ken is listening to the meeting on Zoom. Okay, sorry, Councillor Harrison, please carry on.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Barkley. To all, I see two parts to this motion here. The first one being that the town of Innisfail continue to comply with the government of Alberta COVID-19 health orders. And the second part, and that council not ask the government of Alberta to lift any facility restrictions. I'm going to deal with each part The first part, I have said many times during my campaign and the time that I've been on council that I'm going to support. We're required by law to support the health orders by ministerial order that's given out. And I'm not going to change my stance today. I still fully support that and will support that as part of the motion. The second part, council not ask the government of Alberta to lift any facility restrictions. I'll bring up some stats from Friday that I gathered, and I'll just stress that I've done my research. I've done both sides. I know there's been a number of delegations come and present their facts. I've looked at those. I've looked at their links. I've looked at this. And I've heard many times that we need to be open-minded, which we are. And this, and I go back to assessing the science, the data, and the research that I've done. And these numbers are off the chart. Friday, just in this region in Red Deer, there was nearly 100 new cases in the past 24 hours on Friday, 100 new cases of COVID-19 being the variant. And they've sat on Friday evening at 703 active cases. So there is an emergency. It is an epidemic. The week before in Red Deer, they had less than 100 cases. So you can see how this monster is growing. The numbers aren't good. They're headed up. Again, we'll get updates probably this evening. The numbers aren't good. I look around the world. I watch international television, and Innisfail is not unique. These numbers are increasing all over the world. All over the world, scientists are saying, this is what we need to do. We need to have these kind of programs in place so that we can protect our citizens. And that's our mandate as a council, to protect our citizens. I've had many calls, both via telephone, email, and even in the grocery store when I'm out shopping for groceries. People are coming up to me and saying, Councillor Harrison, Don, stay the course. Stay the course. You're doing the right thing. Now, we may agree to disagree. The delegations, there's other people in the community that have their views. Like I say, I've done my research. I was asked to do that. I've done it. And based on that and the data that I have found, I'm going to support these two parts to this motion. I'm going to support that we comply with the government of Alberta and that we not ask the government of Alberta to lift any facility recommendations. So with that, I turn it back to your worship. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Bates?
Mayor Barkley, I was wondering if you could read your motion again, please, because it's slightly different, I think. Than...
It is slightly different than what's on the screen here. The motion I'm bringing forward is I move that the town of Innisfail continues to follow the government of Alberta's ministerial orders and all recommendations and policies with respect to COVID-19, as we have been doing and are required to do by the powers that are invested in the provincial government that take precedent over those of a municipality.
Mayor Barkley, I just wondered for council to see that motion, if we could maybe write it in a word onto the screen so it is visual, so all council be able to see that motion draft.
Okay, or I can amend it to the one that's on the screen if you like.
Just so it's clear. What the
Okay,
motion
well,
is.
let's do that because that's easier than looking at trying to get my Word doc up on that screen. So I will amend my motion and that it will say that the town of Innisfail will continue to comply with the government of Alberta COVID-19 health orders and that council not ask the government of Alberta to lift facility restrictions.
Okay, well, thank you for that
Okay.
clarity, because I
Yeah,
Sure.
it is a bit different. Yeah.
CAO Becker's
Yeah.
that we might have confusion. So my comments are the COVID first became a subject to council March 2020. It's been a continuous adaptation and learning experience, I think, for everybody in the province. everybody in the country, everybody in the world. I personally have repeatedly stated that we don't have the jurisdiction or expertise to not follow the government of Alberta health orders. And I'll give you an example of that. Just over a year ago, I received an email to educate me that COVID was not spread through the air. And if I had acted on that, I can't imagine what rabbit holes we could have gone down. So it's clear to me that the Alberta government has the jurisdiction. They even have the jurisdiction which has been acknowledged in the last couple of days by the federal government. The feds don't have that jurisdiction over Alberta. And I go in further, if I don't have access to the expertise, which I don't, then I don't even want the jurisdiction. I mean, the people that have the jurisdiction have behind them millions of dollars worth of budget that they're employing experts and or interacting with jurisdictions around the world to make their best decisions. And as I compare Alberta's decisions to others, which we all hear on the news, I don't find them overly onerous. And I think, in fact, they continue to take some risks that maybe the others will learn from in either direction. So again, I'll repeat, without the expertise, I don't want the jurisdiction. And so for that reason, I support the motion.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any? Councillor Dunham?
Mayor Barkley, thank you to everyone in the gallery and on Zoom. Over the last week, I've seen several individuals from my inner circle, both adults and children, test positive for COVID. Some are sicker than others. They have quarantined, some are isolating from their other family members according to provincial requirements. Kids are going to miss school, adults are missing work, and for those that are paid hourly, they're losing essential wages their family depend on to exist. Locally and nationally, we are hearing of essential services hit by staffing shortages due to COVID-19. Businesses are struggling to stay open due to employees out sick once again from COVID. And yet we still have some that would deny what is happening around us and say, throw open the doors, no public restrictions. I've tried over the pandemic to look at things from a communitarian perspective rather than as an individual perspective. My social responsibility is that I have to make personal sacrifices to make sure that the health of my community is priority. As a council, we have been accused of not listening to our constituents, which is far from accurate. Our interactions are not limited to delegations here in council. It is every day through emails, social media, phone calls, on the streets, and in businesses. I've heard from all perspectives in our community on the issue, and no one wants to see family members not able to watch their children play sports or enjoy leisure activities. No one has told me that they wish to deny anybody the enjoyment of playing sports, getting exercise, going to the theater, or anything of the sort. What most have said is that it is an extremely difficult time with changing restrictions, some of which honestly don't make sense at times. But most of all, thank me and say to the council, thank you for making tough decisions to follow the mandates in place and to try and keep our community healthy. We have spoken to the issue of compliance of health orders on several occasions in this chamber, and as the councillor, I will continue to follow the provincial mandates as I'm legally obligated to do.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wing?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Nice, Deb.
and this is to the gallery and to Zoom. I had a conversation with a citizen. It was Saturday, and on this subject, and I think that Gavin said it very well. As in, like for our province is pretty lenient compared to other provinces across the country itself. But what we're doing is following the ministerial order. And that's what I'm going to say is on a governance level is we have no authority whatsoever. Do I support the motion? Yes, I do. And I think at the end of the day, this is a motion just stating that where we stand as a council and making that decision. But What I'd like to say to the gallery, as well as to, you know, our citizens on Zoom, is ministerial orders, you know, dictate to us as municipal leaders as to the direction of our Alberta, you know, through Alberta Health Services, how we conduct ourselves. And I think that, you know, I keep on saying that over and over again, and that's out of our hands. But at the end of the day, you know, looking at the emergency plans that CEO Becker had shown us and what potentially can hit our community, is making sure that we're making sure the public is safe at the end of the day. And we have a responsibility to all our citizens. So thanks for that.
Thank you. And a responsibility to our staff as well. Keep safe. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'd like to start off by thanking the administration for that very thorough update on the pandemic plan earlier. From an emergency management perspective, this is still relatively new work in the whole scheme of things. And so I appreciate the amount of work that has been undertaken to build the plan and maintain the plan and monitor the plan. So thank you for that. That's been a lot of work. Certainly, my position as far as compliance with regulations has not changed. I campaigned on that, and certainly nothing has happened in the 11 weeks since we were sworn into this job. But I want to address maybe a different perspective of the concerns that I've heard, in addition to the very solid comments from people around staying the course, follow the rules. We've been hearing from a few people that they don't think that we are sharing their concerns. And so I wanted to just talk about that and talk about the fact that council has not sat idly by over the past 11 weeks relative to this issue, and actually relative to many issues. It's been a busy period of time, and there has been a lot of business on our plates. But along with administration, this council attended the Alberta Municipalities Conference in mid-November and supported emergent resolution number 2 relative to provincial health restrictions decisions. And that was passed by every elected official in the province, essentially representing virtually every municipality, directing Alberta municipalities to be in touch with the Premier, the Minister of Health, and the rest of the government of Alberta to advocate that provincial health restrictions not be downloaded to the municipal level. We do not have the mandate. It's not our authority. The provincial government is not helping any of our communities by dropping this into our laps. So that was a solid endorsement at the provincial level that this council participated in. At the same time, at that conference, we met with the Minister of Municipal Affairs. COVID-19 and its impact on the community, as well as the restrictions, were among the items that we addressed with the minister. And since that time, we've also met with our MLA, Devin Dreeshen, and again, this council has advocated to the province that the rights and the importances of the people in our community and the people in our town and the employees in our town be considered relative to restrictions and relative to health in general. So I don't think it's reasonable to say we haven't heard anybody. I don't think it's reasonable to say that we haven't been advocating on behalf of the community. We have been, but it's not our mandate. It's not on our authority. So I guess once again, non-compliance is not an option. I will absolutely be supporting this motion, representing our community, and the challenges the restrictions have placed on our residents and our businesses and our employees is critical to us, and that's what we've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor
Councillor
Barkley?
Sears.
Thank you. Thank you for presenting the motion, Mayor Barkley, and for the clarity of purpose contained in the clauses. And thank you to my fellow council members for each of the points that you brought up. It reduces the number of things I need to say here. The job of council, as we've said, is to ensure the greatest possible safety for all the citizens of Innisfail within our legislative jurisdiction. And as has been stated on multiple occasions, it's not within the jurisdiction of council to change provincial health mandates. I agree with the notice of motion. It reflects a high level of leadership, focusing on keeping our community in its entirety and our staff safe, and maintaining an awareness of capacity issues within our health region, while also striving to offer a reasonable interpretation of the REP. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maceras. And I would just add too, nobody wants to be here. Nobody wants to be going through this. And if we could get through this, that will be the best thing going. And I know Councillor Dunham runs a business, and I know, it's been very difficult with staffing and opening and closing, and it's not been good for anyone. So thank you for the comments, and I'll now ask for a vote. If you're in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Carried. We'll now move on to 4.5, Councillor Hystad.
Thanks, Your Worship. I guess 4.5 under water meter rates. I was looking at an opportunity at our agenda and priorities meetings, at AP meetings, for our administration. I know before the election, I believe there was some rates changes, probably about a month or two beforehand. Or am I out to lunch, Todd? But I'll explain myself. I had a conversation with a citizen on the water meter rates and the concerns that were brought forward to me. And I know that there had been some changes prior to this. I'm gonna finish this delegation or this council. And what I'd like to do is bring it back to that meeting so that I can learn a little bit more on those rates and how that works, and making sure that when I'm communicating with our citizens that I'm saying the right things. How's that?
Oh,
I'm gonna look
definitely.
at CEO Becker if there's anything that I did miss, because I did ask him a bit of a question on it, and I thought it was a good learning opportunity for not only for me but maybe some of my colleagues here.
I can support you, Councillor Hystad. So I did have a chat with Councillor Hystad recently. I did indicate that our previous council did have some inquiries from community regarding the rates regarding utility bylaw. Council had received a delegation, at least one, if not two. I don't recall any adjustment to the bylaw at that time. Councillor Hystad, however, through a motion, you can certainly direct administration to bring back utilities bylaw for a thorough review. Administration can then outline the details of how the different rates are calculated as outlined in the bylaw.
Yeah, I would just add, I think there were some adjustments, commercial, large industrial operations. There were some adjustments made maybe 3 years ago, I think. But yeah, by all means, Councillor Hystad, if please make a motion and as per CEO Becker's verbiage.
Yeah, I'll make that motion that we have operations bring back the bylaws itself on meter rates, and give us an overview of that at our AEP meeting. How's that?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Any discussion about that?
Mayor Barclay, just,
Yeah, Councillor Harrison.
thank you. Just a point of clarification, just water meter rates, not utility costs like so much per cubic meter, just the water meter rate.
Well, we could look at all of it, water meter rate, and you're saying utilities.
I'm asking you because our utility rates are set. I think we've had that discussion on utility rates. I'm not sure. I point to Erica, I guess.
Mayor Barclay, through to Councillor Harrison and Councillor Hystad. So are you meaning the flat charges?
Yes.
That get charged?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Hystad and Erica.
Thanks to both of you.
Okay, any other questions? Or okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you, Councillor Hystad, for bringing that forward. We'll now move into 5.1, policy framework, and that will be presented by Director Vickers.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. So I'm bringing forth a policy called the Policy Framework Policy. So this policy is to establish a framework for the development and approval of policies, programs, procedures, and guidelines for the town to ensure that corporate governance is developed and documented in a consistent manner. So the town operates within the scope of the Municipal Government Act, Tools such as bylaws, policies, and procedures are how the town translates legislation as well as strategic priorities into clear direction. Using policy, council directs strategy as well as directs administration. So the CAO uses policy tools to initiate council's policy intentions and to direct activities. Policy tools that are not well defined lead to inconsistent decision-making, creating confusion for internal employees and external stakeholders. It is important that policies and related documents are clearly and consistently developed so the town can achieve its desired strategic goals and operational outcomes. The town uses policies and procedures to convey the town's priorities or stance on an issue, to provide transparency about a process, to establish standard processes or expected standards of behavior, or to facilitate compliance with legislation, regulatory documents, and jurisprudence, and to minimize risk and liability for the town. So in this policy, we do identify council policies. Council policies are a written statement of position, intent, or direction that communicate town priorities, provides governance for present and future decisions, set standards or performance and service delivery, and articulates principles of acceptable behavior and action. And I just wanted to provide an example of what some of these council policies would be. So camping on town premises policy, residential infill incentives, strategic planning policy, park donation and memorial program policy. So administrative policies are created to provide guidance for an administrative function that affects the internal staff of the town. So this would be our working alone policy, our employee orientation policy, emergency preparedness, lockout, tagout. Those are just some examples. We also have administrative procedures. So they provide prescribed courses of action that reflect the standards required to enforce a related policy, bylaw, or legislation. Administrative procedures have corporate application and are primarily created to ensure consistency in the manner administrative or council policies and bylaws are carried out. We also identify SOPs as well. So an SOP is a procedure that describes the activities necessary for employees to comply with industry regulations. So the majority of those are like their safe operating procedures. So if there's any questions, I'll take that. Other than that, I would like council to approve policy framework policy 2021-001.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. Could I please have someone make that motion?
I'd like to make that motion, Mayor Barkley, that council approves policy framework policy 2022.
Okay, thank you. And are there any questions or discussion around this? I think it's a good idea. Consistency is always good. Updating old policies is always good. All right, all in favor then? Great, thank you, carried. And next we have Director Jenkins, 6.1, a request for decision on Hazelwood housing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. We're looking for formal direction from council to continue our engagement with builders for the construction of 3 single detached dwellings on existing town-owned lots in the Hazelwood subdivision. So council has had a couple of conversations on this previously, and just looking for the formal direction prior to going through agreement terms, finalizing lots and builders for this process. So the town has 4 remaining R1C lots to be sold along 58th Avenue in Hazelwood. The lots have been owned by the town since 2010 and are currently listed with RE/MAX with a list price of $79,900. In an effort to promote the development of lots and increase local housing stock, administration has reached out to qualified builders identified through the 2020 expression of interest process and has got into further discussions with 3 out of those 4 builders with plans and updated costs being provided. We have 3 possible agreement structures that we're continuing to finalize with those individuals. And that formal council approval specific to each lot and builder agreement would be brought forward on January 24th This would include the proposed construction costs and the preliminary designs for those units. So again, just requesting a motion formally from council to move forward with this process.
Okay, thank you, Director Jenkins. Could I please have someone make that motion?
Mayor Barkley, I would make that motion at this
Okay,
time.
thank you, Councillor Wing, and I'll open it up for discussion.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So I think I've personally identified these lots as needing action to try and stimulate them. And my understanding is we basically gained ownership of these through a developer default. Now that this recommendation has evolved to this point, I do have some concerns. We won't have the actual numbers that are going to come back to us until January 24th. But I'm concerned that in two ways. A, that date, that we won't have access to a whole lot of other things that we're going to look at with housing at that date. And I hate to raise the expectation that we're going to pass or vote on that information on that date when I do believe it's premature. I also think these lots, like they're the last that didn't sell from the default. And I hate to burden the rest of our system or our resources with those lots. I think we have to look at the whole housing thing and decide if we're going to dip into reserves to even temporarily back a program. We have to look at the other things that I know we're going to be looking at. And so January 24th worries me from that standpoint. And I don't want to raise the expectation that if I vote for this, that provided everything comes back looking good on January 24th, that we're going to proceed with, because I think there's other things to be looked at before we direct those funds. So that timing is an issue to me. And the potential tying up of the capital that we might have to promote housing in other ways. I think these lots almost have to stand on their own. As I've mentioned in the past, trying to promote them, I think we could probably, I would rather almost give them away to the right scenario for building on than potentially tie up other town resources in them. Because I think they are a bit of a Achilles heel right now, and I don't want to see us divert other resources in that way. So I don't want to create the expectation, that's why I'm speaking, that if everything looked good, then on January 24th, I'd be personally backing this because I have those concerns. And specifically, I know we're going to look at a couple of other information items. I'm not sure we'll get all that done before January 24th. We won't be doing our strategic planning till the middle of February. I'm sure housing will be one of the issues we'll be looking at. And so, yeah, I've run on and on here, but those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. Anyone else?
Sorry, I'm going to add one thing.
Yeah.
I'm not against furthering discussion
Mhm.
and getting more information. I want that clear, but I don't want to raise expectations and spend an awful lot of time, effort, and money on that, either by us or the builders.
So, yes, our CEO Becker.
Mayor Barkley, to discussion from presented by Councillor Bates. The motion is intended actually for administration to gather the information. Administration does not have formal direction. Actually, I'll back up. Previous council gave formal direction to proceed with gathering information and data, which is generating this agenda item. We're confirming this council wishes to proceed with gathering that information, updating that information. Right now, we don't have that direction. If you don't, we require, even no direction is direction. So if you don't want to make a motion, then we're not going to be gathering that information. But information would help you. to make your decisions. If you want us to gather more information beyond that of Hazelwood, certainly give us that direction. But right now, we're looking for direction to actually do the research for your consideration.
Councillor Bates, would you be more satisfied if we amended this motion where we maybe remove the specifics that it's Hazelwood and broaden it to available town lots, as we have lots elsewhere and we're not necessarily boxing into one area?
I'll say yes, and I'm not against gathering the information as it relates to these lots and as well. Yeah, I just don't want to create the expectation that we're going to make a decision on January 24th, which isn't in the motion, but it is in the background of this. So if I vote on that, I guess I feel that I've created a record that we're likely going to make a decision on January 24th. And I find that to be difficult. But so yes to both those things. I don't have a problem with strict, if we recognize that January 24th isn't a deadline for this to be decided upon, which isn't in the motion, but it is in the background information. And if we were to expand that to, if we're going to talk to a builder about that lot, you could certainly take a generic lot and go with it and say, what about if we did it here and here? Sure.
CO Becker.
Just for clarification, Mayor Barkley to Councillor Bates, January 24th is the self-administered deadline to present you information. I'm not seeking direction so much. So if there's additional information council is seeking, you can make that request, and maybe it could be 24th, but based on what Director Jenkins is stating, that if you give us this direction today, we could likely get you information based on your direction by the 24th. It's certainly in your realm to decide when you want to make decisions. That's your prerogative, not Director Bates telling you need to make a decision on the 24th.
So Director Jenkins, is it okay to potentially like broaden the motion a little bit, because we may not just be focused on one area, even
You
though.
certainly can. I think if there is, at the previous discussion we'd had, there was the sentiment expressed that we needed to separate and do one, as opposed to try to tackle both Hazelwood and Napoleon lots in the same action. I think there's likely more conversation in terms of which lots and what council would like to see in Napoleon. We can certainly bring that information back together as the housing product that we would be looking at, and what the builder would be providing us in terms of cost would likely be different between those two areas. But again, we can certainly bring back, whether it's on the 24th, or if there is a feeling that you'd rather wait until after your strategic planning session, again, pushes back anything that involves construction. Yeah, we can bring back those options together again with both development areas.
Councillor Bates, did you have something else to add?
Well, just, I guess I'm hung up on one statement, right? And it's just before anticipated outcomes, and the specific line says formal council approval for each lot and builder agreement will be brought forward on January 24th. So if it's just brought forward as information, fine, but I would be having this same conversation that I'm having now, then if we don't have our other options. That's what I'm trying to get across. And I don't want somebody, a builder, disenchanted with us on January 25th because we didn't make a decision, or you know, whatever, because I know we're going to be looking at some options, and if we were to proceed with the model that's brought out here, we likely tie up most of our available reserves that we would allocate to this type of thing for these 4 lots. And once you've spent it on one, you wouldn't have it till all that was built and sold, and
But
you can't
yeah.
spend it more than once.
we may end up doing one at a time. I mean, that will ultimately be our
Absolutely.
decision.
Yep.
What we do. And I think we've identified that housing is a priority due to some economic activity that's taking place. And, we've asked administration to get working on this. And so
Yep. So I don't have a problem with the motion as stated, but I will be on January 24th. I'll be saying we're not making a decision that day unless we get a whole lot more information between now and then on other options. Thank you.
Councillor Wing, are you happy with that motion, or did you want to amend it to delete the Hazelwood area part and maybe add
Yeah.
available town lots?
Yeah, I feel that the motion actually constrains us relative to where we actually are in our planning cycle relative to the housing continuum. So I would prefer to see the recommended or the motion not be specific to 3 lots in Hazelwood, but rather directing administration to engage builders for the construction of, I don't know, maybe even single detached dwellings is tying our hands too, but certainly I guess it's a place to start. So I agree with Councillor Bates. The line around approving builder agreements on the 24th of January was a little alarming, and so I would be concerned about that.
Well, it may be and it may not be. Depends what comes forward, right?
Maybe, but I think the motion
So,
is, I think the motion is not, I think it's too constrained.
Okay, so is that now is that the new motion you've just made, or did you get that, Kara?
Mayor Barkley, I would make that motion.
Okay. CEO Becker?
Would you like me to repeat?
Yes,
it?
please.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we're kind of all over the place.
What she said. I would move that council direct administration to engage builders for the construction of single detached dwellings in concert with the housing continuum being considered by council.
Okay, any further discussion, Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Jenkins. In your discussions with the builders, Director Jenkins, can you have that conversation with them to manage expectations on their behalf? That they're fully aware that on January the 24th, we're not making any kind of large decisions. I believe that we need this information as soon as possible so that we can go into a meaningful strategic planning discussion. We're going to need to know sort of what this is all about. So I think we need to proceed with it. But as long as in your discussions with the 3 builders, manage the expectations that it may be weeks or months down the road before final decisions are made based on the overall housing kind of.
Yes, so
market.
they're certainly aware that council needs to be the final authority on approving these things. It becomes challenging for them to provide us with cost estimates for us to make decisions on if we're continually going back and forth and asking for something else. But yeah, we will continue those conversations.
Yeah, and I would say keep an open mind for what comes next, right? Because I mean, it has been identified as a priority, or we're talking about maybe doing 1 or 2 and going from there. So Councillor Maceras.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Jenkins. I just have a question about the agreement structures that are listed here. And I was wondering, how did you come up with those? Is that a discussion that you've had with the builders, or are those just potential options? And will we have a chance to discuss those at a later date?
Yeah, so those are actually sort of structures that have been explored with the various builders that we've had discussions with in terms of what their preferences are or how they see it working the best for the town and for themselves. As council's aware, there is an opportunity for further discussion on how these would be structured and what the preferable way forward is. Even just within the report, there's definitely different approaches rely, put the onus on the builder as opposed to administration in terms of the sale and marketing, or in terms of the, expectation of profit, those types of considerations. So again, all of those are subject to the ratification of council.
And a follow-up question. Is it the preference of administration to choose one agreement structure, or would there be a possibility of working with multiple agreement structures?
I'm of the opinion we could work with multiple based on the preference of the builder. Again, this is a bit of a learning experience for us as well as to what works best and what is the easiest way to approach this type of arrangement.
Okay, thank you. And maybe just to give a little bit of background, I believe we went down this path in maybe 2020. Started looking at these lots and how we were going to get them sold, and then things got put off with COVID and whatever. So we're back exploring this option again. So we do have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? No. Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? No. Okay, carried. Thank you. We will move forward with 7.1 on heliport construction with Director Kennedy.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. So I have in front of you a request to provide council an update on the heliport project, and as well as seeking the next directions. So the project was tendered in August of 2021, where we had 4 contractors submit bids. Bids ranged from 489,955 to 650,100. At that time, we did have Ground Effects, our consultant, evaluate the bids with a recommended action from them to award the bid to Timcon Construction. At that time, we provided the council an update in regards to the overall cost of the project, with the construction of the low bid being 489,955, adding 10% contingency, including the engineering approvals, testing, and as well the operations manual and training. Total project cost came in at 641,541. On August 23rd, council directed administration to not proceed with the construction and include the project in the 2022 capital projects list for deliberation. On December 13th, 2021, council approved the 2022 capital project, which included the heliport reconstruction for the above mentioned project cost. Since then, administration has contacted Timcon Construction, which has consequently agreed to honor their submitted bid from back in August. Timcon is a Red Deer-based company since 1988. They have completed many multiple discipline projects throughout the Central Alberta region. In conversation with them, construction is anticipated to be started in the spring of 2022 with the final commissioning in the summer, later summer, July, and approvals and commissioning with training to be completed in the fall of 2022. A detailed schedule will be provided once the contract is executed. Some of the service level impacts, additional training and allocation of staff resources will be required to operate and maintain the helipad to current standards. Financial impacts, total project value is within the budgeted amount, and we have included the operating costs in the 2022 operating budget. So we are looking at council for council to approve the award of the heliport reconstruction contract to Timcon Construction Limited for the value of 489,955 to be funded from the general cap reserve.
Okay, thank you, Director Kennedy. Did you want the amount to be the 641 rather than the 489?
For this recommendation, it is just for the for the contract of construction.
Okay.
So,
All right, I would have someone then make that motion, please.
Mayor Barkley, I move that council approves the award of the heliport reconstruction contract to Timcon Construction Limited for $489,955 to be funded from the general capital reserve.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. Any discussion, any questions? Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, and it goes to the additional 150,000 for contingency engineering approvals. Where in the budget is that coming from, Director Kennedy?
The overall project value, project cost was 641. That's what we did budget in our capital project.
Okay, so the money has been,
It's been allocated. yeah.
okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. CEO
do have a-
Becker?
I do have a question, Mayor Bartlett, to council, and just on expectations. I know previous council talked a bit about fundraising. I was wondering if this is a good opportunity to have that conversation and ultimately lead to your expectations, if there is a fundraising requirement to this project.
Yeah, just I guess to fill in the current council, we did discuss and maybe even the town, I think, kind of spearheading that, Director Jenkins, or being an integral part of it for sure, for purposes of receipts, charitable receipts and that kind of thing. I think you have reached out to some service clubs to see if there's any interest. I know due to one I participated in last week, there is some interest there, and suggested that they reach out to you again.
Okay, last
About that.
sorry, last formal direction from the service club, like from the Rotary Club, was that they weren't able to play that role. So we'll
Yeah,
revisit.
I don't think it's so much around being a fundraising body, but some funding, let's put it that
okay.
way. So there is some opportunity there. And I don't know, I guess I always saw this as something that the community would be quite intrigued with and want to participate in. And you know, whether that's done through some kind of a 50-50 or whatever, but I think there is opportunity for the community to get behind this, and there's many people that would like to. So, Councillor Bates.
I guess the other element, which we quite often visit, is it's clear that I think we're going to do it, and we shouldn't hold it up for, but we should, I think, accept some form of recognition if people want to contribute, because there are people that always contribute to STARS, I know, and to actually have their heliport part of their contribution. And the other thing I think we should do is make a formal approach to the county and just tell them we're going to do it. And would they consider participating at least? I know we're not dealing from a position of power when you say we're going to, we're going ahead, but I think we should invite them to participate.
Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, your worship. You know, I know when we were all campaigning in that, I know this was a big one for all of us. And I think there's many citizens that would like to contribute in one way or fundraise. Maybe that's an opportunity during our strategic planning sessions. But I know years gone by, there was other service clubs that did so. So that's what I envisioned anyways, you know, even with us moving forward. So that's how I seen it as represented that way. Thanks.
Councillor Wing.
Mayor Barkley, I would agree with my colleagues. I don't think there's a need for the town of Innisfail to replicate the capacity that exists currently in the town relative to raise the fundraising. So I think an opportunity to bring some of those groups together and have a meeting and a conversation about sort of whose focus is where and what the plans are for the community. We certainly did hear during the election that the helipad was important to this community. And I know from various citizens that have reached out to say, when are we getting started? I have money to donate. So I think we should, plan something quickly and let's get busy with it.
Do you need some formal direction for that, CEO Becker?
Where I'm at, Mayor Bartley, and put it over to Megan too, but basically to inform the community that the town is receptive to receive public funding for this project. Recognition would be determined friendly, but right now, that's really what I'm hearing in this dialogue.
Yeah, and I think too, now that we have approved the project and it is going forward, that will maybe have a somewhat of an impact on discussions as well. Before it was kind of on again, off again. So, okay, so we're good with that. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so we are now moving into number 8, the correspondence and information. Yes, and I want to point out a couple of things. This letter addressed to Todd, and thank him for all his efforts the past while. It's been challenging at times. And also, CEO Becker, I forgot to bring it with me, but I know that you have been assigned to a committee through the AUMA. No, nobody's bitter. Can you just mention that and to maybe talk about it a little bit? And Councillor Highsett and I will cry over here, but that's okay.
We're not in the pipeline.
That's right. That's Mayor Barkley. Yeah, no, I received notice from Alberta municipalities of successful application to the Economic Development Committee. It's a new committee. It's partnered with EDA, Economic Development Alberta Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, I didn't want to mention it because I know a lot of councillors maybe not have been as successful as I was with my application. So, but appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you and congratulations. I know you will represent us very well on that, and it's great to have someone from Innisfail on that, especially when we're doing all this economic development work. And you're happy too, right, Councillor Heisted? Okay, moving on to more correspondence, Kara.
Mayor Barkley.
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly how to address this. It's regarding the letter from Ms. Reimer and the letter from Mr. Davis. I'm finding the letters increasingly difficult to deal with because council has made its position clear. As Council Bates stated at a previous meeting, and I echo here, I am not a constitutional lawyer. The arguments that Ms. Reimer brings forward to council regarding constitutional law and the Charter of Rights are not within the jurisdiction of this council. Council has received legal advice. I don't have any other words or comments to say to the letter from Ms. Reimer. And regarding Mr. Davis's email, I spent a long time over the weekend trying to figure out how to make my feelings about this email, how to articulate them in council. And I believe that a number of citizens are out in the community perpetuating false and misleading information related to council decisions, including, in fact, the motion that was brought forward today. Additionally, I'm disturbed by the use of the word discrimination and the misunderstanding of the principles and concepts of equality, diversity, and inclusion as they relate to human rights protections. I would just like to say a little bit about my professional life and what I deal with, and the mandate of my organization, which is to create justice through providing opportunity. And I see what discrimination, oppression, and prejudice looks like firsthand every day. And more importantly, I see the effects of it and the generational impact of it. I have a quote here. It's not mine. I'm just going to read it now. It's from the CEO of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. And it says, and this is, I agree with this, that certain limitations on freedoms, such as restrictions in times of pandemic, should not be mistaken for discrimination. And I would just like to reiterate, the council is not refusing to do anything. We're not refusing to listen. We have listened, we have heard. And that's what I've come up with. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maceros. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, I concur with my colleague, Councillor Mazzaros. Have spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks contemplating what I read, what we've received, and where we've been over the last 11 weeks. Regarding the email relative to special events, I just want to put this on the table. I was not an elected member of the council relative to the events that were referenced in that email. So I can't speak to the decision-making process, and I can't speak to the conversations and the information that was at this table at that time. However, I was a citizen of this town at the time, and I am compelled to comment as well. The rally that was held in Innisfail in the spring of 2021 was not made up largely of out-of-town professional protesters. It was attended by a large number of caring and concerned members of the community who wanted to support a local Innisfail woman who organized the event out of concern and caring for her neighbors, our neighbors, and some of the experiences that they were having. It was not a threat. Yes, we had some people show up that had actually been invited from some local citizens. They misbranded the event. They misinformed people as to the intent. And it did end up costing us money because we needed to ensure that all participants were safe, even the participants who weren't from our community. As for Pride, and once again, speaking as a citizen at the time that this event took place, I'm really offended by not only the comments, but the perspective. With this event, just like others, if you don't like it, don't go. Innisfail is a busy, bustling community. There are activities and events that are held here all of the time. I've been involved in organizing numbers of them. We've always received enthusiastic response from the town employees, from town council, whether it was a provincials tournament, whether it was a seniors event, whatever it was. I don't believe that the town made any extra efforts relative to Pride that they haven't done for every other event that's happened in this community over the years that I have lived here. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to this. Councillor Mazzaros, thank you for being brave and taking the first stab at it. But I think it's time that we as Innisfailians start to appreciate all of the beauties that we have in this community and start to understand how we can support each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wing. Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. As my colleagues have said, I spent a lot of time with all the correspondence over the weekend. Sorry. On June 25th, 2021, several locals headed by myself held Innisfail's first Pride event. I'm really sorry. It was a transitional day for the local LGBTQ+ community and the town of Innisfail. For the first time, the Innisfail and area LGBT community and its allies had the opportunity to celebrate who we are in the community where we live. Transphobia, homophobia, discrimination based on personal sexual orientation or gender identity exists everywhere. It is not exclusive to smaller towns and rural communities. It is not exclusive to conservative areas, towns, cities, or countries for that matter. My experiences and life here have shown me that Innisfail is not a homophobic town. We have a considerable portion of the population that are our allies. Queer people have been fighting since before the Stonewall Riots of 1969, which is where gay pride started, for their rights, for that they deserve equal rights and will not be discriminated against for who we are or who we love. Everyone has the right to live their truth, live their authentic life, and they have the right to live free of fear of violence and discrimination. Our priority as queer people is not to care if select individuals or groups feel our lives are offensive. Our priority is to support and love each other where others cannot seem to find the compassion to do so.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dunham. Councillor Heistam.
Yeah, no, I want to thank my fellow counselors for their words today. I attended Pride. I attended the rally that was put on at the No Frills rally that it's sometimes referred to, and as a citizen, and I consider myself an activist as well. Is that when you're an activist, it's about respect as well, and I think activism um, in those events, actually the rally at No Frills, there was a lot of citizens that went, and there was a lot of positive that came out of that. As to the Pride, knowing my wife and I had attended, and my daughters, and even the evening event, there was what I saw and what I learned as an ally, and I'm always learning every day to become a better ally. There was lots of grandparents and different relatives that were attending the event with young people from our community, and making it a safe place to live. And hopefully in the future, we have more events such as Pride. And I think it's important that when you're an ally, is to speak out. And I want to thank Dale and Cindy for your words today, and as well as my other counselors as well. It's we in these roles, we're not going to be perfect. I'll tell the gallery this. There's going to be individuals that are going to be unhappy with us at times. But for those two events that I want to talk about, I learned a lot those 2 days. And I want to thank the organizers for that. And being an ally is a learning of opportunity. So I want to thank the counselors for this.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess I will just add too that, the correspondence that was sent referencing the anti-racism rally, certainly not factual. I think also as a community, we should take note that when Donna Allard visited us with us a few weeks ago, her role is 25 years in economic development for the government of Alberta, and her most recent role is regional and industry relations for Alberta Jobs, Innovation and Technology. She said to us that one of the best attributes Innisfail has is the welcoming and inclusive community committee, and the work that they and the town has done for many years. And she was certainly very familiar with Pat Bedart, and like you, Councillor Hysad, I learned so much through this process, and taking training afterwards with Ubuntu, and how to become an ally, and to do that, yes, it takes courage. So I applaud everybody here today for speaking up and defending this, because it was a local Innisfail young woman who wanted to take this on, and it was not easy for her. And as far as the comments about Pride being a divisive event, of course, nothing could be further from the truth. I did attend it. There are too many people who have left this community because of bullying and being looked upon as not belonging. And everyone is welcome in our community, and that includes the LGBTQ community as well. So I am very much looking forward to this year's events, and I want to thank you, Councillor Dunham, for having the courage to put this event on last year, and for your words today, and your emotion that you demonstrated. And we are a better community because of it, and we're going to keep growing without question and keep maturing. So thank you so much. Just have a motion to accept correspondence as information if nobody has any other comments.
Mayor Barkley, I'll make the motion that we accept the correspondence as
Okay.
information.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. All in favor? Okay, and then we'll start our round table today. I think we're going to start with Councillor Harrison, despite what the list says, correct?
Well, thank you, Your Worship, Mayor Barkley. Again, a very quiet week, just sort of easing back into it after the Christmas break. I did get my car started, so I should learn to plug it in, but it started this morning, so everything's good. So I guess as in summation, it was a very quiet week. I didn't have any committee events, but I will be attending a service club executive meeting tomorrow evening. And if it's okay with council and administration, I'll certainly put our discussion around the heliport as an information item there, sort of plant the seed to see what the appetite is with that service club. So if that's consensus around the table, I'll certainly do that tomorrow evening. So I see a lot of heads nodding and okay, yeah, thank you. And you're back to Mayor Barkley. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Quiet week on my end as well. There was the A&P meeting last week, and because it was quiet, I took the opportunity to start developing some relationships around the table and orient myself more towards the position. So thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. For me as well, quiet week last week, A&P meeting on Monday, and mostly right now it's year end for me for the committee. So that's where I'm putting most of my time in.
Enjoy. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yes, since MPC and the A&P meeting last week, I have nothing new to report other than I survived the deep freeze and defrosted my deep freeze too. So there you go.
Barely. Councillor Bates.
I also had MPC and A&P last week. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I walked every day since, let's say, December 29th for just under an hour. You don't look the same when you come in, but you do thaw out. So this week, I do plan to observe the Great Disconnect tomorrow, and I do have a Mountain View Water Commission meeting on Wednesday. That'll be a Zoom, which is unusual for them, but they're being that careful with COVID, and they have a unique situation in that the plant is so critical to every community that's on it, and so they're absolutely minimizing the amount of visitors that get into that plant. The employees are their own little island. Thursday, I think I remember that some of us might wind up at a seniors lunch, and Friday, I think we have the aquatic center tour and meeting. That's it. Thank you.
We may have to rejig that seniors lunch, but we'll get to that. Councillor Hystad.
Thanks, Your Worship. The Innisfail Historical Village is having the Snow and Tumbleweeds event this Saturday. It's an outdoor event, so which is nice to see. And I believe there's lots of outdoor activities, ice sculptures and stuff like that. So it's a fun event. And I'll be at the tour on Friday as well. I guess every time the comment I do want to make today is I know that we do the treaty acknowledgement. I think it's, every odd meeting kind of thing that we do it. And I would actually like to see that we do it every meeting that we attend on council. And that's what I'd like to bring forward, is if there's a way for us to do that and acknowledge it every meeting that we bring forward to our community, do the treaty acknowledgement. That's what I'd like to bring forward today. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And myself, I have a MS Teams meet with Annie Dormuth on Wednesday. She's with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. They reached out to me probably a month or so ago asking if I would have a meeting with her, and I said absolutely. So looking forward to that. And then, of course, the Aquatic Center tour on Friday. And as Councillor Bates said, just a reminder to everybody, there's the Great Disconnect that FCSS is showing on Tuesday evening on Zoom. So that's a great opportunity and a great film to watch. So thank you so much. And anything else? We'll go to open microphone session. Does anybody want to come up and speak? Yep, Mary, come on forward. Just when you come up, Mary, turn the microphone on and please state your name. There's just a button up right below the, right in the middle of it. Got it. Okay.
So Mayor Barkley, councilors, thank you for allowing me to speak. There's a saying, you've probably all heard that, I think they attribute it to Einstein. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result. So for the almost 2 years now, we've been doing mass social distancing, 1/3 capacity, lockdowns, and the great hope is vaccines. And we're right back where we started. So something new and different has to be done, and the government has to think about this. I was really happy when Mr. Becker put up at the beginning of the pandemic, a pandemic being defined as any country that the multiple countries in the world actually have a disease. It was a new disease. It was very virulent. People with comorbidities, and we all know what those are at greatest risk. The healthy were not. And the WHO said, this is the disease that humanity has not built up any immunity. The best immunity is to get sick. Healthy people can get sick and recover. Children have not been affected by this. And I'm moving on just quickly. A friend of mine was in hospital with COVID. She was pretty sick. She had to have lots of oxygen. It was a very interesting experience. She had lots of chats with the nurses, and the nurses, shift after shift, she was in for 2 weeks, pretty much agreed that Omicron is just has to go through society. We just all have to get sick and build up some immunity. Also, I did put a letter, I had a letter put in each of your boxes, and it was by, well, it's a declaration, cease and desist, and yes, that notice of liability thing from the World Council of Health. I hope you will all take the opportunity to read it. Our big concern now is the adverse effects from the vaccine. So the vaccines aren't as safe as we like to think. I myself know people with adverse effects, some serious. And I do have no seniors who died right after getting the vaccine. So these are doctors, and they're not all doctors. They are from all over the world. They know lots what's going on. So it's not over. It has to change. You just can't keep doing the same thing and over. We're past social distancing, 1/3 capacity, masking, blah, blah, blah. We have to do something different. It's just information, folks. I'm actually not asking you to do anything except read this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Happy New Year. My name is Iris Reimer. Wouldn't be a month without me here. No, I'm just joking. Hopefully I'm not doing this again. But I did want to just say hello, council. I wish you a happy 2022 to you all. Mayor Barkley, thank you for your words that everyone is welcome in Innisfail. And I think that's what we have desired all along. I wanted to just clarify a little bit. Not all of you are here for all 3 delegations. Not all 3 delegations asked the same thing. And I think it's been said that we keep saying the same thing, but not all delegations asked the same thing. The first delegation was just concerned, just shared their concerns with the REP program being accepted in Innisfail. The second delegation, there was concerns of discrimination. And trust me, I know discrimination. I lived in a city in Africa of over 500,000 people, with our family being one, making up half of the white population. I understand discrimination. Now, we also were able to get food and water, but I'm also concerned with discrimination, and we've seen it in various ways here in Innisfail. We talk to patients at our work. Where we work, we have seen discrimination, and we're concerned with introducing some or pushing through mandates that would continue with discrimination. So that second delegation, we were dealing with discrimination, and we had asked for an inclusive roundtable discussion because it had been mentioned during one of the council meetings that the REP rules were, were really confusing. The third delegation we talked about, we didn't even mention the REP. Well, we talked about, I talked about, and Brian Peckford talked about the constitutional protected charter rights and freedoms, and that those were being taken away. Encourage you all to continue to have Innisfail be a welcoming and inclusive community. I wanted to read a quote from the Mountain View Today from December 28th. The delegations are asking us to do something that we don't have the power to do, said Barkley, the Innisfail mayor. I guess that's what it comes down to. Let me remind you of the fact that what was asked of you was something you are able to do, and you already did in the past for the doctors of this town when you, Mayor Barkley, had council write a letter to the provincial government in March 2020 advocating for the doctors. On December 13th, 2021, the delegation asked the council to write a letter to the provincial government to speak for the 8,000 Innisfail citizens and the 17,000 county citizens constitutionally protected charter rights and freedoms. I'll read a letter which you had up there. I wrote and I emailed to each of you December 15th following the third delegation. I questioned if any of you had read it because I had heard at a previous council meeting, Todd Becker, the CAO, instructed you all to forward all emails to him to handle. The letter, thank you for allowing me to speak again this Monday. I've contacted Honorable Brian Peckford regarding your points about Section 92 of the Constitution. This is his response. To clarify, Section 92 of the Constitution does not apply. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms protects the rights and freedoms of individual Canadians. It makes no distinctions as to where a person lives and what jurisdiction. It's every person everywhere in Canada. So the municipality's lawyer does not understand the Constitution, or he or she is desperately trying to find a way out for his client. There is no way out. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 2 says that everyone has the following fundamental freedoms: freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, thought, belief, opinion, and expression, as well as freedom of association and freedom of assembly. Section 6 says that every citizen of Canada has the right to enter, remain in, and leave Canada. Every citizen of Canada and every person who has a status of permanent residence of Canada has the right to move to and take up residence in any province and to pursue the gaining of a livelihood in every province. In any province. Section 7 says that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person, and the right not to be deprived thereof, except in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice. Section 15 says that every individual is equal before and under the law and has the right to equal protection, equal benefit of the law without discrimination, and in particular, without discrimination based on race, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, sex, age, or mental or physical disability. So everyone, every citizen, every individual, the fact that municipality comes under the province in Section 92 is irrelevant. The municipality is still under the charter and must not violate it. Brian Peckford, signatory to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. He knows what he's talking about as he helped in the drafting of the Constitution, and he is a signatory to it. If you would like me to, I can request a Zoom call for you all with Mr. Peckford, and he won't charge you a dime for his time. So please reconsider my ask. I welcome you as our representatives to be our voice and take up the baton and fight for all of our town and county citizens' rights. Almost 8,000 people in Innisfail, and the county of Red Deer is almost 19,000. We need your support and help to take our concerns to the provincial level. Specifically, I ask council to make a motion to draft and send a letter asking the government of Alberta to cancel the restriction exemption program because it is unlawful, unconstitutional, and in order to implement this program, citizens' charter protected rights and freedoms are being violated and stripped from them. We're not at war, nor is there an insurrection. They have not demonstrably justified their pandemic COVID measures. This is a reasonable request, is what they've asked you to do, is in fact breaking the law, the Constitution of Canada, the supreme law of Canada. I want to welcome you to represent us, bring unity, bring healing, and perhaps you will lead the charge and other municipalities will join you as you represent and lobby for your citizens and their rights and freedoms. So far, no one has responded. This is the first I've seen that anyone has read when you presented it earlier, but no one has responded to our third delegation's request or to that letter. Roles and responsibilities. I noticed in your discussion and over your motion, Mayor Barkley, I just wanted to go over roles and responsibilities. Mayor Chief plays 3 roles: member of council, chief executive officer of the council, and community representative. The mayor chief does not make decisions alone. As a member of council, the mayor chief has the same responsibilities as other councillors. And councillors, you represent all members of your community. You help make the policies that direct planning, financing, and community services. With the mayor and chief and the rest of council, you give direction to the SAO band manager or the CAO and ensures policies are carried out. You need to understand what your residents in your community want. During your discussion, I noticed safety was mentioned a whole bunch, but I nowhere in this government document on the roles and responsibilities of the mayor and the councillors is it mentioned that you're responsible for our safety. I believe our safety is our own personal responsibility, and it's also for law enforcement. I'd also like to take this moment to remind council of the fact that the previous mayor, it's something he told me, Jim Romaine shared with me. He said, I have only 1 vote. There are 6 other votes and voices on council. The previous original council had 6 councillors, 3 of which faced a review or a code of conduct placed on them, paid of course by the citizens' tax dollars. Who requested these reviews and why? I would like to know. We as Innisfail town and county residents will continue to watch and hope that each member of this council uses their voices and their vote to speak for all of its citizens. Please put egos and personal views aside and look to the community in a way that you engage with them, you listen and honor what being part of a community in the town really means. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else want to come forward?
I apologize for not doing as you asked. Mary Fleming, citizen of Innisfail. In case you're wondering. Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Just need to look at upcoming events to start with, sorry. Gone over some of these, and thank you, Kara, for putting all the upcoming engagements together for us with Red Deer County and Penhold and Red Deer Catholic School Board, and appreciate that. Be good to get together with everyone. Okay.
I'll make that motion to go on camera.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, thank you.